2 weeks before the celebration of the Lord's coming out of the tomb, we are celebrating the resurrection of Lazarus. Is this the coming attractions, as we used to say in the movies when they told you what was coming 2 or 3 weeks hence? No, these readings were set before us today, not for our sake so much, but for the sake of those who are being baptized at the Easter Vigil, the men and women who for the first time will be filled with the Spirit of Jesus and the very life of Jesus because they have gone into the waters of baptism. We shouldn't forget that baptism as it was originally, and I would hope someday again be practiced, is a person being completely submerged into water, a brush with death, and then raised up from the water as a sign of what happens internally when we accept Christ and are filled with his life. The readings today are geared for those to be baptized, but there's a lesson here for all of us who have already enjoyed for years the life of Christ living within us. The prophet in the first reading talks to the Jewish people who are in exile. They have been taken away for years from their own country, and they have been put into a form of slavery, much like the slavery of sin. But it was a real slavery. They were really removed from their land. And the prophet was saying, God will bring you back. He will bring you back as if he would raise you up from the dead. And then he talks about that famous vision of his where there's a field of skeletons and God brings them all back together, puts flesh on them and brings them back to life. Jesus, of course, raises Lazarus from the dead, a man who has already begin to suffer corruption. What is the message for us, though, who have already been living the life of the risen Christ, perhaps for many, many years? I think the message for us today is this, that we should rejoice in what has been given to us and live that new life to the full. Because there is always a danger of fear coming from perhaps our unwillingness to listen to the Word of God and to submit ourselves to it. There is always the danger that we will go back into the tomb, that we will enclose ourselves in a self-protecting life, which is the very opposite of the life Jesus has given us, a life which, like his, was poured out for the sake of other people. If we go back into the tomb, we are rejecting the gift of resurrection and new life. And we are also keeping the rest of the world from experiencing that risen life of Christ, which is actualized in us for the sake of the world. For we are the bearers today of the risen life. So let us take a warning from these readings geared towards those to be baptized, and not to reject our own baptismal experience and life, and not go back into the tomb of selfishness and fear, which will keep us from living fully the life of the risen Christ.